A BB for Hodier and straight black pride, brothers and sisters. This is your brother DC Radical One, back after a long hiatus, and I'm very excited tonight. We have a special guest on the program that I'm going to bring on shortly, and you all know who it is. And we're in a very interesting time, and this brother is always ahead of the time, and he lets us know what's going on, usually before it happens. And so this is another one of those times where he has let us know what was going to happen before it's happening, and we're going to discuss current events with him. But before we do that, let me greet some of our usual people who are here. BB Foldy and Straight Black Pride, the brother you got ripped off. BB Foldy and Straight Black Pride, the brother Kevin. Straight Black Pride, Queen Infinite Fire. BB for Hodier to 777-9311. I know I saw Unique One Express in the building. BB for Hodier to Sister Fonessa. And a BB for Hodier to Sister Nina. Also, greetings to Brother Sincere Supreme. See, we have a lot of people here. Some that I haven't seen before, which is good. Straight Black Pride to Assure, I believe that's Assure Entertainment. Hotep to Sister Angel. Straight Black Pride to Sister Misty. And greetings to Sister Matrell, who was extremely excited when she saw the post up on Instagram. So, quickly, I'll just say one of the reasons that I haven't been on YouTube lately is because I want to let all of the different restrictions and penalties and all the things that I've incurred since I opened this YouTube channel. If you look at the page and you see the number of videos listed, it's still under 100 because I probably have half a dozen taken down. So this just goes, I'll let you know this because we're doing cutting edge content that they don't want people to hear. And bringing this brother on is an example of that because they don't want his voice out in the public. They don't want you to hear him speak. They don't want you to hear his message. We have no idea how long this will stay up. We have no idea whether the channel will be canceled tonight and this will be the last show. So I'm going to treat it like it's the last show. It's going to be no holds barred. We're going to ask the brothers, what's going on, and he's just going to, he's just going to let it loose. So with no further ado, brother Genie, are you here?
Yes, sir. Here, loud and clear, ready to go.
All right, brother. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm glad to be in the house. I'm looking forward to the discussion. Glad to see all the brothers and sisters out there. Let me put this up first, just so you can see, because we're gonna be talking about this tonight. The brother let me know. I know they tell me that they canceling people when you say anything these days. This is our new book that we did, and since July that we released, and this is the one you want.
All right. So, okay, I'll start with the usual question that people ask me. Oh, man, where's Brother Genie? What's Brother Genie been up to? I ain't heard from Brother Genie in a minute. I ain't seen Brother Genie since I don't know when. Please explain why people don't hear from you, don't see you, and then just go a little bit into what you've been doing, especially since the summer.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me back. Um, Pretty much to make it simple, and I knew it was coming, but I didn't understand the context because, of course, I did not predict the whole Fauci, the Fauci, the pandemic. I didn't predict that. I certainly didn't predict it at that moment, that time, and I didn't know everything that they were going to do. So I just knew something was coming, and I knew that they were going to cancel me from media because as I began to learn more about what do they call it when they stop your message from getting across? Shadow banning.
Right, right.
I've
Yeah.
started to learn, yeah, because when I started getting on YouTube at about 2010 or something like that, from the beginning they were doing things, but I didn't know what it was. So I didn't even know how to see it or understand it. Now looking back on it, I began to learn. Long story short, 2020 in the summer when they were preparing to do the theft of the election of Donald Trump, I was calling out all of the Jewish involvement in that summer with the whole George Floyd situation. I was pointing out very directly. Y'all remember that if you were there. And they made the decision at that time. Now's the time to pull the plug on this guy. We're not going to let it happen with the last election, happen with this election, certainly not with him having anything to do with it. So they pulled the plug on me on pretty much all social media. And just all at once, I was gone. And ever since, it's gotten to the point where if a person puts my name on something, that I'll be there. Sometimes they've gotten canceled. The program has gotten canceled just in the process of advertising it. So Eventbrite has canceled events that I didn't even put specifically what I was going to talk about. So long story short, I've been um, blocked from the people through social media or through the internet, like through that means. So we've been doing things person to person and face to face, but in terms of reaching people through media, they've done a good job at stifling my voice.
Yeah, brother. I can attest to that. Actually, somebody sent me a message yesterday, and they said, "Brother, you don't know how shadow banned you are." And I was like, I was kind of thinking, and he said, "When we repost your stuff, it doesn't get that many likes." So I didn't understand. I figured that if other people reposted stuff, if I posted and other people reposted, then people would see it. I didn't realize that they have some type of system where they ban the post from the source, and regardless of who posted, fewer people see it. Right. So I literally just learned that today because this is how I know what you're saying is real. And I've noticed this for a while, and I'm thinking the people aren't interested. So I will post an event we're doing with you speaking or me doing a lecture or whatever the case may be. And I can literally post something right before that. I can post a meme on Instagram right before that and get, let's say, 100 likes. Then I post we're doing an event and get 20 likes. I'm thinking, well, maybe the people aren't interested. Maybe the people don't see any value in it. I had no, I just didn't want to believe, right, that they are targeting people that specifically. Of course, until I read a book that you recommended on the whole C-19 and all that, and they went into it, and they told us they paying the influencers, the celebrities and whatnot, and they're muting other voices. And so, yeah, I've been right there with you. Now I understand how the censorship works. Especially in the digital space in the 21st century. So, you were out, I believe that was last week, at the Reparations rally down at Freedom Plaza. Tell us what was the purpose there, and what was your goal, and what did you accomplish there?
Yeah, well, first of all, if anybody comes in this region, Washington D.C. area, and they're black, despite any agreements or disagreements we may have, if they're genuinely doing something that we think could be beneficial for our people, whether we agree 100% with it or not, we're gonna, support. Somebody in your house and they trying to do something positive, then you show support. That's just a black thing to do. So we said, how do we do it? and do it along the mission that we want to do. And we said, well, there are two major things in the modern context that we're talking about, and that, quite frankly, are going to require reparations. And that's one is this LGBT push on our children and youth. I mean, I think we don't have to debate that or even talk further about that. They're going to have to pay for that because they're destroying families and communities. I mean, they're destroying culture. And then two, this COVID-19, this Fauci, the amount of death that they've caused and intend to cause with this it's almost unconceivable. So we created a flyer. We actually bought and raised some few funds. Thank you for all the brothers and sisters that contributed. Actually went out and bought some flyers, and we went and passed them out. And we had a whole box. I don't know if it was 1,000, 1,500, or whatever the case may be. And we wanted to go down there, be seen. This our city, this our region, something for Black people to go down. We'll be there, and we'll let people leave with something that's tangible. On that flyer, we put down those two different things that were going on in our community. We left on there the flyer who's in charge of each of those. So you have the CDC, which is Walensky. We know what kind of name that is. We don't. You should. All right. And we also have the Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services, Richard Levine, that now calls himself Rachel. So you got a tranny who's sick. Male thinks he wants to be a female, and he's the second in command of the Health and Human Services, control of the health of the country. So you can imagine how sick and bizarre and disturbing this is. So having said that, we went out there and we passed those flyers out. We talked to people. We discussed what the real issues that nobody wants to address. I mean, huge elephants in the room, standing on somebody's leg, and we're not talking about these things. And so we said, let's go out there and make a contribution to be there with the people, make them feel at home in DC, but at the same time, talk about the real issues.
All right. Well, I mean, speaking of things that nobody wants to talk about, recently, I guess within the last 2 or 3 weeks, the man formerly known as Kanye West has, for whatever reason, decided to speak out. Not really sure what his motivation is. Not really sure what he's trying to accomplish, but it's been quite controversial. What are your thoughts on what he said, and then the reactions to what he said coming from the media?
Okay, so now tell me how much you want me to say. Do you want me to say the 3-letter word? Do I not say the 3-letter? Give me some rules here so I know. I mean, how are we going to do this so I can tell me what lane to walk?
I mean, we can use our usual hat language, you know.
Okay,
People,
hats. Okay.
that term has become almost universal. I hear people who don't even know where it came from saying it. Sometimes they're butchering it. So, we'll just go with the hats. How about that?
We go with the hats. All right. So these small hats. All right. So we got these hats. So, essentially, Kanye has come out. Brother Ye, that's his name now. Ye has come out, and Ye has said very simply, the hats are the problem. Hats are the problem. He said they are the problem in the Black community. They're exploiting Black people economically. They're in control of our voice. They're in control of our economics. They're in control of our industry. He's really gone far. He's even talked about them destabilizing and destroying and sabotaging the Trump administration, because he's friend with President Trump. He's really gone out of his way to make serious impressions and have influence, and it's been very effective. I mean, he's saying things that other people know, but nobody would dare to say. And of course, the media, I mean, the hats do what the hats do. They say, okay, you really want to do this? And he has not backed down. I mean, he's backed up, but not backed down. He's declared it as a state of war. I mean, he said it's his war. And he's been not only fighting, see, we only looking at part of it. He's not only fighting the hats, which nobody does. That's like the top of the hill. But he's also fighting the closer enemy. He's fighting the Uncle Tom Mobutus who say something about him identifying the hats as a problem for the black community. I mean, he's got a sword and he's swinging in any direction that it comes from. So any of these folks that are criticizing him, like I got to think of so many Negroes. It's hard for me to remember these Negroes, but a lot of them are speaking out against him, identifying the hats as the problem, and he comes out with a sword and just cuts right through them. And so he's saying he's not going to allow Jay-Z, he's not going to allow Puffy, he's not going to allow them to turn him off because he's not owned like they are. And in this state, I think that it's important for me to say this as we move into this discussion. We never trust entertainers, but we have to understand this is not about trust. This is a war, quite frankly, that's been waging for a long time, but it's been a one-sided, lopsided, it's been a behind whooping. We've been being destroyed by this group, and almost nobody, very few people have had the capacity or the platform and the audience to strike back at them. And essentially, when I look at it, I use a biblical reference everybody will understand. We saw a brother, despite how we may feel about him before this, or what our opinions are of him and things he's said in the past, or whatever the case may be, somebody jumped out and punched Goliath in the mouth and drew some blood. And that's something that we haven't seen in a modern context. I mean, somebody hit him hard and drew blood, and it's like, whoa. We haven't seen Goliath stumble like that. And so it's opened up a door of now other people saying, yeah, you know what? The truth is the hats are the problem. Hats are doing a lot of things that are bad. And of course, they got their veritable cornucopia of Mobutus, Stephen A. Smith, Mobutu, Charles Barkley, dress-wearing Barkley, dress-wearing woman's clothes wearing LeBron James, woman clothes wearing Shaquille O'Neal. And I say that specifically. I'm not saying that as an insult. They've worn woman's clothing before. So I'm saying that to say this whole cast of characters is speaking out against Ye and also against Kyrie Irving, who since that time did some things in regard to that. So we can talk about that too. But essentially, basically what we have is we have a black versus Jew war that we knew was coming, but I did not know it would be this front street. I didn't know that it would be entertainers launching the war on our behalf. And now that I've seen it, what I realize is all their job was to do is open the door. It is unfair for us and unreasonable for us to expect entertainers to be able to do the job of a race of people. They're entertainers. They're here to entertain people. They've really gone at this point above and beyond their expectation. And we shouldn't expect them without an army to have a capacity, and they would not be the leaders of that army anyway. This is made for people who have a socio-political understanding of who and what they're dealing with and some goals and objectives for our race. So they can make whatever contribution they want to. I'm with it 100%. But I would tell us to not be foolish and expect them to finish. They started, though. They opened the door. Now it's our time, those of us who are in the know, to produce something with this war and keep the fire burning.
Yes, sir. Brother, you got ripped off says he thinks that brother Kyrie has changed his name. I hadn't heard that, but if so, that's very interesting. Now you talk about certain entertainers being closely affiliated with hats. You talked about the Jay-Z Beyonce connection with Marina Abramovich years ago. And of course, Clive Davis is the mentor of Sean Combs. And I use that word specifically for a reason. So, with that being the case, and we can even take it back to like discuss like people like Prince and the reason he was writing Slave, and people like Michael Jackson and why they turned on him so quickly. Discuss some of those historical issues to let people know that this isn't a new phenomenon.
Okay, so man, okay, let me exercise some discipline here. So let me do Michael Jackson because Prince was in the same category, and it falls into Michael Jackson where You have people who decided that they did not want to be controlled and owned and ripped off by the industry, and learned some business and made some brilliant strategic moves to begin to take control of their own capacity to make money off their own work. And Prince did that. Michael Jackson had gotten into a situation where he was beginning to really see the wickedness and the evil of the small hats. And I used to didn't really pay attention to it, but as I got a little older and wiser and started listening to one song told me. I saw him having a Nation of Islam security, but that didn't really do it for me. I said, he needs some security. When I really realized, whoa, something happened to Michael Jackson, is when he did the song, They Don't Really Care About Us. And I want to break that song. I want people to go listen to that song. When you listen to it again, you're going to go, wow, that's a heavy song. Because Michael, for those who've been following me in the modern context and the strategic maneuvering we've been doing, you know that I've been working with straight up Nazis now. I'm going to just call it what it is. Nazis, white supremacists, the far right white. I looked for them. It's not by accident. I looked for them. I went and found them. And I found the right ones too. They get it. Or they get as much as they're going to get. And we were working together. And it's actually a good space because it's time. But what Michael was talking about, I mean, it's really deep. I didn't perceive Michael would say this. If you listen to the song, it's one part he says the 3-letter word, J-E-W. That me, screw me. I mean, the 3-letter word, then sue me. Everybody do me. Kick me, kike me. Don't you black or white me. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. So when somebody first alerted me to that and they took it out of the song, I said, whoa. What is he saying? So I listened to the song deeper. He said, J-E-W me, sue me. Everybody do me, kick me. Don't you black or white me. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. So I started saying, wait a minute, why is Michael saying this? And as I began to look at what he was saying more, there was a voicemail that came out. He called somebody and he was telling them how that 3-letter word, the small hats, he said that they'll build you up so that they can take you down and strip you of everything. He was very direct about who he was talking about. And he left that and somebody kept it on their voicemail because he was getting frustrated with dealing with them. But I'm going to tell you the part about that song. There's a few things in that song. One, he was basically saying he targeted for black people. If you see both videos, he did 2 videos on it, one in Brazil, one in the prison system. And he was saying they don't really care about us. So it was targeted at black people. But he really, if you listen to the song, he was saying black people and white folks, we both being targeted. I wasn't really ready to hear it at the time, even though I knew that the hats are a problem. I knew that they were the problem, but as we know, we've been facing the white supremacy from direct white aggression. Before they realized that they were under siege, they were just as happy to destroy black people, and many of them still are, as the ones that were really driving the whole thing. So I didn't separate it. But what he said in it really got them angry. And they know people don't know this, but if you go back and listen to the song, go play it again. They don't really care about us. He says, if Martin Luther was living, he wouldn't let this be on. So we all thinking the same thing. You hear that? He's saying if Martin Luther King was living. That's not what he said. And that's not who he was talking about. If you go and do any research on Martin Luther and Jews, the great reformer, Martin Luther, where Martin Luther King got his name from. If Michael was talking about him, he would have said if Martin King was living, Michael worked some words. He said if Martin Luther was living. Martin Luther got to the point where he said that this group was such a threat that either they would have to convert to Christianity or basically be wiped out. He talked about how they had a practice and it was a religious practice where they took spiritual pride in a religious way to their God. He's talking about the Babylonian Talmud, essentially. And he's saying that part of what they believe is that they're supposed to use medicine and their position as medics to kill people. Like literally, they're saying that they're supposed to, that they feel good about doing this and that they kill people through being doctors, through medical malpractice. He talked about, he talked about a lot of things. In fact, some people credit Adolf Hitler from getting some aspect of his whole personality and ideology from the writings and from the influence of Martin Luther, who was very harsh on the small hats, like very definitive too. He wasn't mincing his words. He wasn't caring about what they thought. He was very direct. Something needs to be done about them. So I'm saying that to say, when we're looking at Michael Jackson and these other people like Bill Cosby, Bill Cosby did not originally speak about them directly. He just said, I want to buy NBC. Well, we remember they said no, and he didn't go away. He began to speak about wanting to change the images that are on the big screen. And he did that for a few years after they had already told him no. And all of a sudden, a Russian small hat pulls over on the side of the road and murders his son out of nowhere. It wasn't out of nowhere. It was, this thing called Hollywood is ours. We control the minds of people through controlling the images. We already know what you want to do. We've seen the impact you can have. That's not the direction that we're going to allow things to go. Stop trying to do this. Cosby didn't stop. He lost his son. Then, I don't know if you all have heard on the Cosby situation, but when Cosby got out of prison, he had a black brother that was his representative. And the brother went out as the official representative of Bill Cosby and told the story. He said, how did Cosby get locked up? He had a small hat executive at his house. And that small hat executive said something racist and offensive to Mr. Cosby. And so Mr. Cosby said, get out of my house, and put him out. And that small hat executive said, we're going to get you. And you watch and see. And he said that's what led to the situation where he ended up being in prison. This anger from one small hat, a high-ranking executive that said, I'm going to get you one day. And he got him. So now that's according to Cosby through his representative. I forget the brother's name. So I'm saying that to say this war with the hats has been waging, but it hasn't really been a war from the perspective. We haven't been throwing direct shots and punches. Now we're beginning to start to see for the first time since the 80s, where black people are beginning to stand up against the small hats more collectively. The brothers are now starting to stand up and push back. Ye was the first one to do it very directly right now on a broad scale. Then Kyrie quietly, smoothly interjected and has paid quite a price for doing it. Now we're starting to see, I got a little small list I need to add to the list. But if you come up with any, I'm going to name 6 of them, and you tell me if you come up with any more, Brother Conrad. But Corey Holcomb has been very outspoken. And again, I'm not a fan of any of these entertainers per se, but these are black men that are taking a stand. So I'm just naming them. Corey Holcomb, Dave Chappelle, Floyd Mayweather. I don't know if he's speaking out now, but when Kyrie didn't take the jab, he defended him. Slim Thug, Charleston White, Jason Williams. So these are 6 black men who have come out publicly and, hey, taken a direct position. Can you think of any others, brother?
No, that's everyone that I've seen. I've actually heard some rumblings that it's possible that the players union will try to get this ban that they have on Brother Kyrie rescinded, which would be major because I mean if you just look at the talent on the field, well on the court, especially in the NBA, there's absolutely no reason for them to allow this because we got to remember he sent out a link. It's not he didn't say anything. He sent out. I mean, when you really think about it, it's really unprecedented that somebody, any person, the brother drive a trash truck or work in an office, for you to be on Twitter, say, "Hey, I saw this. It was interesting," and set out a link, and then, I mean, you just getting raked over the coals back and forth. So, you know, it. I mean, I think we'll still see this thing play out. I don't think it's going away quickly, and you know, the brother is still strong. But I haven't seen any other individuals take a stand.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I definitely wanted to mention, and the reason I'm mentioning this, I want people to understand what we're looking at is the launching of a war. I wrote, again, I wrote this because a war was coming, but I'll be honest, I did not know when or how exactly it was going to happen. I certainly wouldn't have been able to predict this set of circumstances, but that's why I wrote the book. Is because this is it, brothers and sisters. This is how it's supposed to be. What is happening is what's supposed to happen. The men are taking a position first, and I'm gonna tell you why we should do that. And a lot of times, as brothers, we start complaining about our women's behavior. I'm gonna say we got to be mature in this one. The truth of it is, even if we look at these brothers, this is not to knock what they're doing at all. Let me be clear. You go up and punch Goliath in the mouth and draw blood, whoever you are, I appreciate it. But I want to say something, because these are the little nuances that we got to be real with. Unfortunately, neither of them, from what I know, from my understanding, is married to a black woman. So I don't think we want our shit. And if the sisters are listening, I know we don't want our women fighting against them. When men go to battle, and it's a righteous battle, the worst thing in the world our women can do is do anything to try to hurt that. So don't do that. But I will also say this, sisters. If we want your support, then we should be with black women. See, we have the right when we're with black women to complain about your behavior because you're our women. But if we make the decision to go and lock in permanently with a marriage or that type of relationship or children or even dating, anything, and we decide we lock in with somebody else, then when we decide that we need help or something's going on, I'll be honest with you, it will be in your benefit as black women to fairly not target in any negative way, because what they're doing is good. It's a fight. But at the same time, as a black woman, the reasonable position is I wish I could really give all that I could give, because I love the fact that these brothers stand up and fighting, and I appreciate them. But if they pick the white female and that's who they want to be with, then that's who they got to fight with. That's their decision, not yours. And so in that, again, you don't fight against them. You can't do that because we need our men standing up. At the same time, you have to understand, I'm a black man. I don't particularly like entertainers. But why would I be supportive of these brothers now? Because they're taking a fight against Goliath. They're taking the fight for our race, and they're not even trained for it. So I have to give them tremendous credit because they're drawing blood. And they're sacrificing so much, and know that they're sacrificing it before they go to take the battle. No way around the fact that's manhood. And that's a battle I'm supposed to be in, and I'm in it. I've been consistently in it. But I don't have the voice that they do for people to hear. They've intentionally blocked my voice. You know, my voice has been almost shattered to pieces in terms of they cannot have our people hear me and have this book. I mean, just imagine right now, you remember the presence we had on Facebook and I had on different and YouTube. Can you imagine with this happening right now, what would happen if people had access to this? By the way, you can get this on blankartheproblem.com. Again, just go to blankartheproblem.com and share that link with people. Blankartheproblem.com. You see what it is right there, who the problem is. And tell people they can go get them. Share it right here if you can. Put it right here. Let people know. Go get it. Go make sure people get it, because this is exactly what we're talking about. Now, we released this book in July 4th, Independence Day for white folks. And this was made and designed for this very war that we're in. My point being, yes, I'm in it. I'm probably in the head of it, to be quite frank with you, in the modern context. But there's no way that I could honestly take away the amount of assistance and opening the door that these brothers are doing by taking this fight. So it's greatly appreciated. I respect what they're doing. I don't expect them to last to the end because they're entertainers. They haven't been trained to last to the end. This is a lot. These are men who are giving up a lot to take a fight that's humongous. They don't have an army to get. They don't have a Nation of Islam army to join forces with. So, and they don't even know how to find the people who they really need in their corner, like myself. If there's anybody out there that's listening, this is one time. I know they're entertainers, but because of the braveness and courage that they've taken to do this, I want to help them. So if somebody knows how to get in touch with them, please help me. I'd like to get in touch with them because I see what looks like is about to happen to Ye, especially yesterday. I don't know how many people have been paying attention to him, but Brother Ye came out and said, my mother was a sacrifice. And he started naming other people who were sacrificed. And there was something about what he said when I saw it and heard it. It went through my spirit. I said, they're going to kill him soon. I didn't think that before. I said, he's throwing punches at him and they'll do what they normally do. They bankrupt people. But there was something about what he said and how he said it. And now he's dropping names. He dropped that trainer. What's his name? What's the trainer's name? Gosh, Pat. I forget his name, but he's a small hat. The trainer for, I think, Kim Kardashian, or he's a trainer for different people. I think he was his trainer too, I think. And he was the one, he showed the email that the guy sent him saying, hey, if you don't stop talking like you're talking, then I'm going to have you committed to the hospital and you'll be on drugs and you'll be in zombie land, forever. And you won't be able to have much fun with your kids in that state. So basically, he was telling them, you know what we did to you before, we'll do it again. We'll say that you're crazy, put you on drugs, dope you up, and take you out. So he's putting this stuff out publicly. When he said what he said about his mother, something went through me. I said, he's going to need to get in touch with the real people, like the ones that really fight this. Or I don't see him making it past the end of this year. I don't like predicting this kind of stuff because I'm not Mr. Prediction, but y'all already know I'm Mr. Prediction. He needs a different level of support now. Ego is not going to win this war. He's doing a great job of saying and putting out information about what they're doing. And he's being supported by racists like Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is as racist as you can get, in my estimation. When I estimate and I look at racists online, mainstream media, you don't get more racist than Tucker Carlson. But Carlson is honestly helping him. I'm not saying why he's helping him. I think it's because Tucker Carlson recognizes who the problem is. He is not courageous enough or maybe even unwise enough to say it directly. But he's helping Ye where he needs to help. When Ye is putting out this information about his trainer, who is one of those small hats, and nobody else, that's right, Harley Pasternak. Thank you, brother. Harley Pasternak. Harley Pasternak is the small hat, Ashkenazi, who's made that threat to Ye, and Ye is showing, and now when you look him up, you'll see and find information on Pasternak. He has a lot of entertainers he works with. So he's, according to Ye, their handler. So now this thing that we've been talking about, that the people in the industry are being controlled, is no longer conspiracy. Now Ye is giving us names, dates, and serial numbers. That's not something they're going to take lightly, because now we no longer in the space of conspiracy. We can now show, hey, here's evidence where they're involved in some very nefarious behavior, and it's small hats. And he's very clear. He's yelling it out to the world. So I'm saying that to say I want to help them because it helps us. I really want to help the war. And these brothers have jumped in the front of the war, and they're not suited to be able to win it, not because they don't have the heart or courage. They do. They wouldn't have done it if they didn't have the heart or courage. They were willing to sacrifice too. But you got to know who you're dealing with. And they haven't been studying this long enough to know them. They know them directly face to face because Ye has been working with them. But in terms of who and how they operate and the different things they're involved in, he's saying some things, but you need some level of expertise in moving on this, and you're going to need some people that understand what you're really faced with. So I want to help them if we can. If anybody knows a way that we can get in touch with them, I'd really like to speak to those brothers. And if they don't want the help, that's fine, but they need it. One more thing I'll say, and then I'll come back to you, Brother Conrad. I know I'm talking long, but one of the things about this situation that's important to understand for both of these brothers, the kind of shots that they threw particularly Ye, there's no forgiveness in this. There's no coming back. Even if you decide to come down and apologize, and so, there's no getting back in, and there's no forgiveness. The kind of shots that Ye is thrown at them and the ramifications, even if he stopped today saying anything, they got to deal with the ramifications of the Pandora's box that he's opened in the middle of them trying to create international warfare and mass extermination of the world's population. He's shining a light on them. They're not going to forgive that, because really he's opened the door for a massive international assault in the interest of preventing them from committing genocide of the planet. They could be faced with the kind of warfare, if people do the right things and know how to do it. The Pandora's box is open. It's actually, and understand what I'm saying. I'm not advocating and saying whether it should or shouldn't be. I'm saying they have helped open the door for something that could be bigger than anything that happened in Nazi Germany. See, these are international figures here, and they're attacking the entire planet right now. They're not in a country. They're attacking the entire world. So these figures are now internationally famous around the world. So when Ye speaks, it's people all around the world that's listening to him. It's not just the people here in America. And there are white folks who recognize that they're being exterminated now, and they know who's doing it now. At least some of them at the top know, but they're too much cowards to say it. So when a black man jumps out and says it, they're actually like, we're desperate. We'll help the black man say it. So they're helping the black man say it, not because they like Ye, but because they themselves are desperate for somebody to fight this group, which means for the first time in some time, since the Civil War, quite frankly, the white Anglo-Saxon recognizes a threat that's so great that he'll put aside his racism. No, he won't. He'll put aside his racism long enough to open the door for a possibility of strong black people saying, what y'all want to do? In other words, they're not going to be fair. They're not going to be any different than they have been. We're going to have to be fair and say, look, that's why I've gone to them in preparation for this. I've already been talking to them. For those of you that have been following, you've seen me with HT. You've seen me with Giuseppe. You've seen me with the white nationalists. I'm talking to them straight up. And we're having it publicly so that people can see. You can see how it works. We can work. I don't want to say work with them. We have to. We have to make the decision that dealing with the extermination of everybody is bigger than how we feel about any of them. I've been doing that. This is the time for that. And I've shown people that it can happen before it happened, before this opportunity opened. And quite frankly, brothers and sisters, they talk to me every day. I'm be honest. I'm not trying to even exaggerate, pretty much every day. And they appreciate the fight. They see the stuff that we're doing. They like it. They like the way we're fighting, and we're talking on a regular basis because they really don't like what these hats are doing with the LGBT in the schools. They don't like. I'll make it this point blank obvious. The things that we're missing in this dialogue and conversation are things that we shouldn't be missing. We have to become very sophisticated in this day. We have to know who we are so we're not getting confused about loving nobody. We love ourselves and our future generations. But I want you to understand something. There are two people that we talk about that are under siege, but there's a third one we forgot to even mention, and we got to bring it in because it makes our case stronger. We're looking at the two brothers, Ye and Kyrie, but we're missing a third party that was struck hard in this fight. See, when the small hat says, hey, boy, you out of line, and they start bringing out that whip to whip people back into line, everybody's got to get on board. All this Mabutus and Uncle Toms, come on, chastise them. The slave drivers, the slave runners. But in this case, the slave driver didn't do his job. They went to Steve Nash, and I don't have evidence of this. I just know it. I'm not stupid. Steve Nash, as the coach, was supposed to say something about Kyrie. You don't see one statement, written or verbal, of Steve Nash about what Kyrie is doing. If I'm not reading it incorrectly, Steve Nash took the position I'm not getting in it. I'm here to win some basketball games. And of course the hats say, no, you in it. You're gonna be in it. Then go ahead and do something, boy. And Nash says, I'm not a boy and I'm not getting in it. Well, they say, well, if you're not getting in it, then you got to get out of it. They fired him. So they fired the white guy because he won't do his bidding on the slave plantation as the slave driver. See, he's still an employee. That's how the hats run the slave plantation. Yeah, it's white folks on there abusing us, but they have to do it. It's not an option. They think they're in control and powerful because he's a slave driver. He's powerful as long as he's a slave driver and he's doing a good job. But if the decision is made to replace him, the hat will replace him. And that's exactly what Steve Nash is dealing with. So what that does, that affords us the opportunity to say to white folks, yeah, and even Steve Nash, you got to understand, when an individual does what he did, which is refuse to come out and say something negative about this person, nobody gives them any credit. It doesn't help our position. It's not a love situation. It's a wisdom. People like to be appreciated when they sacrifice and do the right thing. When nobody says anything, it becomes a problem because you sacrificed and did the right thing, but nobody acknowledges it. And so that whole narrative disappears. So, in other words, the white folks who didn't jump on board with the hats against us, we say, oh, they all on the same team. Not this time. And he needs to be appreciated for that and say, hey, we got 3 folks that is getting beat down. Why? Because that brings in a whole nother group of people, white folks. See, white folks, all those years you've been whipping us, you thought it was cool. It ain't so cool, is it? Because now they whipping on you and you don't like how it feels. But at least Steve Nash had the responsibility to take a man's position. You can't make me hurt a man when he's down. If y'all want to try to attack him, I didn't jump in there to defend him, but I'm not going to jump in there to hurt him either. I'm going to stand my ground in the middle. And he paid for that. And we need to make that known as part of the thing, because then that brings white folks to say, yeah, you know what? So now if we don't whip the black person who's enslaved when we're told by the small hat, now all of a sudden they put us off the plantation and put us out to work too. Yeah, that's how it works now. That's the narrative we need to be driving. Go ahead, brother. I know I'm doing a lot of talking.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what I wanted to do, and you touched on it, so your answer will probably be quick. But I want to bring this question up from Ray 6639, and because I thought it was relevant, but then you started to answer it before I even brought it up. But he says, if small hats can hide behind whiteness whenever it benefits them, shouldn't we broad aim at all Urugu unless they identify themselves as hats? Answer that question, and also let people know, because I know people are going to ask, how does one identify a hat? And I know sometimes it's murky, it's not definitive, but just give some general rules with that as you answer that question, brother.
Okay. So I'm glad the brother asked that question. This is what happens in warfare. In the beginning of it, in order to develop an identity, we drew very clear lines, black and white. So that means we have to learn who we are as black people and who white folks are in our relationship with them. That's where it starts. That's what we've been doing from the 90s till about 2010, 2015. We were putting in information about the small hats. But what has happened is now war has come. You can't determine the way the war comes. You can only decide how you fight it when it gets here. So this is not a matter of opinion. This is, what war are we fighting? This is the way that the war has played itself out. The small hats have decided that they're exterminating the entire planet. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, and everybody. So what does that mean? It means that since we're smarter than most people and we've identified that that's what they're doing, it doesn't make anybody our friends. It means that we're ahead of the extermination campaign. We understand what the mRNA is, even though they're white doctors that are talking about it, but we understand in a broader scale what the overall plan is. So since we're smarter than people in that regard, we're taking all the pieces and putting them together, then we are the first ones to say, all right, it's our move. Since the small hats are exterminating everybody on planet Earth, then the strongest position is to have a voice to be able to articulate that and make it very clear to people. Because white folks know that they're being exterminated, we can hear them saying that. Intelligent black people would have to know the history of what happens when white folks get upset. What happens when white folks get upset is they kill black people. But they're being exterminated right now, and we can prove it. So you don't have to do a lot of talking. All you have to do is show them who's doing it. And they can't defend themselves because they're doing it publicly right in front of their face. So if you're using wisdom, wisdom would say, since they're mad they're being exterminated, and their traditional practice when they feel under pressure is to kill black people, we need to head that off at the pass, because who usually provides the fuel for them to kill black people? The small hats, the very ones that are exterminating them. So wisdom would say it will be foolish in this dispensation of time to lump all white folks into the same category and try to think that we're going to fight all of them when we ain't fighting none of them. It's just the truth of it is our condition does not dictate that that's intelligent. It's not intelligent. In fact, it's unintelligent. It's foolish. It's egotistical and thoughtless. And I don't mean what the brother said. I'm saying if we actually did that, if that was the move we made, if the general told you to do that, the general is giving you a stupid position. It's not stupid to maintain your position of how you feel about everybody. That's fine, because anything could change any day. We have to defend ourselves at all times, but it would not be wisdom. Wisdom says, since we know that they're exterminating everybody at the same time, we have to adjust to that. And now we reach out to these white, well, not we, I do it because I know what I'm doing. I reach out to them. Now they want to talk to me every day. Why? Because they know I'm genuine about the person that's trying to exterminate them. They see that my work precedes this time period. It's not like I'm coming to them now. In fact, I'll tell you something very interesting. Y'all will be shocked to hear this. But the first time I talked to an actual self-proclaimed, hey, I'm Nazi, one of the things he said to me is that, you know, he was already in the racial battle, but that it was work that he had seen from me many years ago that actually tooled them to, man, you know what? These hats are really the problem. So I'm saying that to say it's not a bragging or anything like that. And it's not, it's just a mutual reality check that this bad guy that's exterminating everybody, when people get information about that, it changes how they view it. And then they start doing different things. So that's the answer I get. I know it's a long answer, but it's important. Really, if we say nothing else on this program, I've said it all right there. No, this is not the time. Now, again, that doesn't mean you can't feel how you feel, but wisdom and intelligence say you have to make the shift in battle, because the battle is different than what you want it to be or how you feel. The battle is what it is. The hats have decided to exterminate everyone, and they're doing it very directly, and they're particularly targeting the whites now. And because of that, there's an opening moment in time where the whites are vulnerable to intelligent thinking, which is, you need to stop oppressing us right now, because we can't do nothing to help your situation of your extermination while you up here beating up on us. And it actually makes them lean back a little bit and look at what they're dealing with. Now, how do you identify small hats? Their names often if they're from Germany, the German names are Steinberg. Those are generally names that you can identify them with. The Slickovitz, Itzes from if they're small hats from Russia, Itzes, and they have names that are identifiable. A lot of time colors, red, REDD, or blue, or green, like Greenberg, or this. Precious stones and metals, stone, ruby, gold, silver, silvermen, occupations, craftsmen, fishermen. There are different ways to identify them. If they're small hats from France, I'm not good with those now. I don't know those. Or Spanish small hats, I'm not good with those. Or South American small hats. I'm not good with identifying some of those names, but that's generally what I can give as some hints of some ways to identify some of the names.
Okay, brother. And real quick, speaking of Spanish small hats, speak on the whole AOC thing where she let the cat out of the bag.
She let the hat out the bag.
Yeah, she let the hat out of the bag. Yes, sir.
Okay. So AOC came out, and this is what she said. Now, I don't know if she's telling the truth or not, but I'm going to take her at her word. We all looked at her as a Hispanic. Well, she came out and said, well, my family's from Spain. And I did my research, and they were Jews. They were small hats who, during the Inquisition, because they were facing persecution, decided to join the Catholic Church. So they pretended to be Catholics for generations, but really they remained small hats the whole time. Essentially saying she's what they call a converso. Those small hats that joined the Catholic Church to avoid persecution or death are what they call conversos. They never stopped being hats. They just pretended to be Catholics, which is why you see such a vicious ramping up of the pedophilia in the Catholic Church, which has always been there, but it gets much, much, much worse when you had the small hats in Catholicism pretending to be Catholics in there doing their Babylonian Talmud molestation thing.
Yes, sir. And real quick, because you were talking about working with white nationalists, it's two things I wanted to do. One, talk about Mr. Garvey and his feelings about the hats later in life, because I think that's something that people miss. Also, talk about Mr. Garvey and some of his moves to work with what we would think of as unconventional forces in his attempt to free black people.
In his book, the course on African philosophy, his African philosophy course, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, peace be upon him. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey said, never trust a small hat. He said, and if you get a chance to beat them in a deal, beat them as much as you can, because they would do the same to you. He didn't say that for white folks in general. He said that specifically about hats. He said, never trust one. Never say that to them, and don't let them know you feel that way. He said, but never trust them. People who were Garveyites and came out of his movement, like Carlos Cooks, peace be upon him, in New York. Carlos Cook said that the black nationalist is that the small hat is the natural enemy to black nationalism. He never wants us to be self-sufficient. That's his basic personality, is to destroy by making you dependent. Now, most people don't know that Mr. Garvey had created such a good working relationship with the Ku Klux Klan that when he was deported from this country, to some degree, the Klan was depressed, and they continued to write him even when he wasn't in this country. Now you say, what in the world? We're not pro-Klan. Of course we're not. The problem with black people is not that we don't know what to agree with on the Ku Klux Klan. We agree how we feel about the Klan. The problem is with the small hat that's over there, there's only a small percentage of us that know who they are and how they operate. And in comparison with them to the Klan, 100% of our people almost are in agreement with how bad the Klan is. When you try to compare them to the small hats, a tiny minority of our people understand that the small hat is 10 times more dangerous and harmful than the Klan. That doesn't make the Klan any better than they were. That just means there wouldn't have been a Klan if it wasn't financed by the small hats. People don't know that. Judah P. Benjamin. It's not a debate. That's how they came about. There would have been no Birth of a Nation and the lynchings of black people because of Birth of a Nation if there wasn't Louis B. Mayer. Small hats. Like, that's when the Klan in 1915 rose again. It was stronger than they had ever been. and spread throughout the South in this country, and the lynchings began from 15 to 65. That's when they really started up again because of small hats. So I'm saying that to say he developed a relationship with the Klan because, like the Klan said, we respect a black man who loves his race because we love our race. We just don't want to be integrated with y'all. And we respect the man who says, I don't want to be integrated with you. So the Klan was working to give land to our people and to help finance us going back to Africa. And even if not going back to Africa, getting land in America so that we could separate from them. So they were helping them because they was like, look, we like your kind better than we like the others. Because another thing people don't know, what the Garveyites were doing, like in Louisiana, if a Klan would rape or lynch a black person, or rape a black woman, they would literally go get the Klan, strip them naked, tie them to a tree, and bullwhip them. They're like, we're not going to be abused. So what happened is, them white folks down there, even though they were abusive, game recognized game. We weren't just sitting there. People had this idea that we were just taking top abuse and just letting ourselves be lynched. And it wasn't like that. We were fighting back. We just didn't have the resources and the tooling to fight back and the ammunition, but we were fighting back. And my point being, under Mr. Garvey, there was a strong understanding that there's two ways you can deal with these Garveyites. Let them have their own land and build their own stuff and leave them alone, and they'll leave you alone, and they won't integrate with you. You don't integrate with them. Well, you got to bang with them. You got to go out there and go in the battlefield with them, and they're not nice. They're not nice people. Now, when it comes to racial conflict, they're very capable of letting you know how they feel about you. So they actually respected him, and they were disappointed and depressed when he left because he was a black man with influence that they could talk to, who they could get things done with. Like, you want money to get, your businesses and stuff going on over here. Not only will we do it for ourselves, but we'll get out of your way, Mr. Garvey, and let you got that land. Y'all do y'all stuff. Let's just create a line in the city where we don't go over here. You don't go over here. Mr. Garvey be like, good. We don't want you coming over here. We're not going to go over there. But if we drive through there to get where we're going, make sure you don't make no bad moves, because then you're never going to be able to drive through here. They were like, we can respect that. They like that. They don't like him. They respect a man who's not going to make their daughter a target for one of their sons, for one of our sons, and create this whole miscegenation. They hate that. So go ahead, brother. I'll talk the whole night away.
Yes, sir. Speaking of that, because you really led into the next question. So with that being said, we have to, and I want you to give the analysis and say if I'm correct. If most white, for most of the time we've been here, have been against integration, and most blacks, for most of the time we've been here, have been against integration, to the point where in my lifetime, now I'm officially old, right? I understand that. I was born last century, way back in olden time.
Old time.
But I remember, and you can attest because you're from this area, where if a brother brought around a non-black woman,
Problem.
the sisters basically put the ban on them. Like, you can't bring those folks over here. You can't come. You're not even really welcome, really. Like, we can't run you out of town. But they would put so much pressure on the brothers that the brothers had to put pressure on the dude that, hey man, you can't be bringing them folks around, fam. We can't have it. And I mean, I have relatives who move all the way out to the West Coast, like people that you knew you grew up with, literally disappeared. You be like, hey man, whatever happened to so and so? They're like, oh yeah, man, he met that girl and so forth, and he moved out to, it was something off the wall. But he moved out to Nebraska. You like, Nebraska? Who? You know what I'm saying? There's no black people out. In my mind, I'm like, there's no black people out there. I didn't know that there were black people, but you get my point. So with that being the case, and that's being kind of how both races felt, the obvious question is, whose idea was integration?
Oh boy. The same person whose idea was slavery. The enterprise, okay, the culture of slavery was white all through and through. That's white small hats and white Anglo-Saxon. The culture, the economy, even. But the enterprise as a business infrastructure, whose business was this? Who was making the money? Who made the decision that it would even happen? That's the small hats. The business of integration is a circuitous route to the same road of slavery. In other words, the idea of integration is the small hats because it's another form of slavery. Destroy the black economic self-sufficiency such that black people are dependent and we can use them as cheap labor. Even that we can create the necessity for crime out of the hunger and the unemployment, and then create prisons as an industry to re-enslave them, to then have corporations that they build the products for while in these incarcerated prisons, which is the only legal form of enslavement in the United States of America. It's just a circuitous route to slavery. Integration is the small hat enterprise.
So that would mean that people like Brother Martin Luther King really wasn't aware of what he was doing. Just talk about some of the hat influences in the civil rights movement, so people can understand how kind of how we got to this point in history.
So, excellent question. And let me say this because I want to say something positive about Dr. Martin Luther King because he did some positive things. He was a courageous man, no question about that. He knew they were going to kill him. He didn't stop fighting. He knew they had some information on him that was very damning. He still didn't stop fighting. So I respect him on that level. He went all the way to the end and gave his life. And at that point, at the end of his life, really trying to go in a proper direction. If you hear him talking about black people supporting each other economically, he started talking about them writing blank checks, how they funded whites getting land and things of that nature from overseas. He talked about them having whites coming from overseas. Those whites happen to be small hats. He didn't say that, but for those of us that know, them land grants and stuff like that was white foreigners. Those were small hats. And he said, well, it's time for them to pay their check to us when he was doing that Poor People's March, and they murdered him. So he did a lot of positive things. Let me say that. But Montgomery bus boycott, that really was black nationalism at its finest, just not called that. Community freedom fighting. It was fantastic. Having said that, I'm not a fan because the bulk of his time he spent, and I'm gonna say something, and it's not I'm not targeting him because I said something positive. I just want to be honest and balanced. When he was younger in college, and this is something that we really got to work on as black men, he had this desire for white women. He was dating one. He wanted to marry her, but she just knew, nah, this is not going to work. She had the sense to know that it wasn't that kind of country and it wasn't going to work. Why do I bring that up? I'm not slandering them. There's a lot of brothers that's into white females. I'm just going to be real. It's so damaging to it's just the damage it does to our women, the damage it does to our families, the damage it does to everything, the loyalty and the respect that we get, the economics of our community. It's just detrimental in its entirety, and it makes us the race traders of our people. But it also does something else. It also does something else that's very problematic. It gives this desire or this design that white is better than black. If where you want to lay your seed is in white soil, the message that you have in your spirit and your mind and that you're going to relay in some way is that white is better than black. So you're not going to want to embrace your people and say, let's go and do something for ourselves. You're not going to do that because you're more inclined to want to do it with the enemy. That's just how you feel. That's who you want to be with. It just is what it is. We don't understand how damaging that is because we don't realize that it comes out in the wash. We may not say, well, no, I'm about my people. It's just I got a thing for white. It doesn't work that way. Now, that thing you got for her comes out in what direction you start pushing. and you don't understand the damage you're doing to the psyche of black women, of what you're telling them their investment in black men is. Hey, when he gets to a certain level, what is he going to do? He's going to go get one of those. Then why would she invest in us? Like, we don't understand the damage we do. Like, it's bad on both ends. When black women do it, it's the same thing. It's damage. Like, why would a black man be out here to do everything he can do to protect his race and his women and children if the women just gonna go run to the white males? He don't have any. I mean, what is the value in her? I mean, for a man too, the prize for a man is the woman who's loyal to him. So why would he even think about doing anything for the woman? So I'm saying that to say, Dr. Martin Luther King's integrationism and desire to be or ability to be conned. He was a young man. I'll acknowledge that. When they sent Baird Rustin, the homophile, the freakazoid butterfly, you know, they sent this ultra queer, you know. This guy's story, man, that's a whole nother story. It's an ultra queer. Like he got queers going, man, you are queer, you know. But they sent a queer to buddy up with him and then to push him into this integration mode and to disarm him. Remember, when Martin Luther King, Dr. King's home got bombed in the Montgomery Bus boycott, he was in Montgomery. Next thing you know, he had all of the brothers surrounded with shotguns, like, come back over here again. You're not going to go home. And it was Baird Rustin who was saying, you can't go this direction. What does this tell us? It tells us that Martin Luther King wasn't no punk. He wasn't about no, can't we all just get along? We got to love this. That wasn't where he started. They sent a homosexual in to implant that in his mind. Yes, he loved the whites, so it was able to be sold to him. But once you bombed his house, he was like, okay, I need the homies. And he would have naturally gone in a direction more towards, even if it wasn't called black nationalism, it'll look more like that because it would have been black people who were armed to defend their interests. He wasn't opposed to that. It was Baird Rustin and the small hats who went in and re-engineered, Stanley Levinson, one of his main advisors, Baird Rustin, Thatchell, what's the guy's name? Some of the names are running past me right now. I'm getting a little older, y'all. But the hats, these were the ones that were engineering the wrong directional integrationism that Dr. Martin Luther King was singing in the early phases. Once he started getting around Kwame Ture and these other strong men, H. Rap Brown, all that we are the world, holding hands, loving white folk stuff, all that stuff goes out the door. And now he has real men that's like, burn it down. We're going to take what we want. Black power. He began to get influenced like that. And that's when they like, we got to do something about this guy. Because they'd already murdered Brother Malcolm, Brother Omawale. And they were like, this guy, his ability to speak and organize people is superior. If he decides to say, hey, we're going to do black in our own banks, which he did say, we got to support each other. Let's build our own infrastructure. Let's defend ourselves. Been a wrap. He joined with the Black Power movement. Been a wrap. It would have been a wrap. They'd have had a major force to deal with, and they wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. So suffice it to answer your question, it's the small hats that engineered the demise, first of all, the misdirection of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and then his ultimate demise. Because when he turned away from their tutelage, they no longer defended and protected him, and they made a way for him to be exterminated.
Yes, sir. One thing I wanted to talk about real quick is, I believe Ye was talking about the hats control the music industry and the entertainment. And we know I have a book. I don't have it with me, but Hollywood was founded by hats. There's a book on it. There's a documentary on it. We're not slandering anybody. We're not making up anything. You can look this stuff up. And their control of the music industry is something that seems to be contentious, or people want to debate the issue. I want to know, did you see the clip of, I call him Liar Cohen. Where he was asked by he was on the Breakfast Club, I think, and they asked him about the influence of the music, and he's up there like, "Oh yeah, man, you know some of this stuff is terrible," and blah 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 blah. And then he turns around, and they ask him, "Well, hey, well, why you put this stuff out?" And he kind of pauses, and he like, "Well, you know, I got people to feed. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I got, in other words, he's like, I'm getting paid. That's why. Can you speak to how detrimental the particularly hip hop has been? Um, and we have these conversations a lot. We grew up in the hip hop era. I was a hip hop head for a long time.
You was a rapper, don't lie. You was a vicious rapper with a lot of bars. Go ahead, do it. Go ahead, tell the truth, shame the devil. Go ahead.
And we're not going to we're gonna save those stories for behind backstage. You know what I'm saying? There are some people who are actually in the industry who have seen me perform and know that I had some skills. I'll say that. But just talk about the nah, brother. We haven't deleted any comments. That's probably YouTube. But just talk about the music and the effect that it has had over the last 40 years and how I believe it has set us back. I actually did a show on it probably a year ago now, where the question was, has hip hop destroyed black culture? But talk about that whole thing coming up from the 80s forward and how it could have been something positive. And then how we ended up with what we have today.
All right. I'll start it with making a very controversial statement. In my estimation, as of this point, hip hop has become more devastating to black culture than Christianity.
Hold up, brother. Hold up now. We gotta hit the pause button on that. Because you and I have had battles with good Christian brothers and sisters, family members, cousins, aunts. You don't say nothing to grandma. You just try to slide or something. You know what I'm saying? For for myself, about 33 years or so. I told you the story of the good Christian brother that said that I had changed the Bible while I was standing right in front of him and called me the devil and a wizard and whatnot. So I've had some battles with those folks. I've had I've had a whole cipher of Jehovah's Witnesses in my house while we were debating. So we've been there. So you are saying that hip hop has been even more psychologically devastating than the slave imposed Christianity. Not we talking about the Christianity that the slave master put on us to keep us from rebelling. That Christianity. We ain't talking about nothing else. Is that your assessment?
Yes, and I'm gonna tell you why. It's one thing to give it a name and not look at what it actually is. But I'm gonna drop something now. You never heard it like this. It's gonna be painful. It's even painful for me to say. What they gave us under Christianity was the surrender of our own sense of value and relation to the Creator, and a worshiping and a bowing down and a worshiping of whiteness. That's what makes it so bad. We should be in reverence to our own existence and identity and God through our own eyes, which from my ancestors was God and goddess. It's a balance. We ain't had no gay God, they ain't had no wife. Like, God ain't no gonna be no God but all powerful and ain't got no sister with him, man. He wanted. I ain't gonna describe her, but I'm just saying. I'm a black man. I'm just saying, ain't nothing like a black woman. But that's another story for another day. But y'all get what I'm saying. I know the brothers out there, put a black power fist up for that one right there. Ain't no black guy ain't gonna have no black woman with him. Y'all already know. He gonna
Brother,
have a
hey,
fire too. Am I
like,
right?
brother, let's think about that for a moment. You
Mm-hmm.
got all the power in the universe
Woo.
to create whatever you want,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
and you do all that work,
Praise Amen.
and there's no way that you don't reward yourself. I mean, you have to. That doesn't make any sense. And we're not gonna veer off course, but we
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
take,
yeah.
but we're gonna take a moment to say, if you ever, this is when I realized it. When you see like one or two sisters in the midst of a bunch of other non-black women, then you really understand that you're dealing with what you have, what you've been blessed with, what you've been given is top tier.
I'm gonna say this. Like, I'm agreeing with you 100%. Let me tell you like this. This what did it for me when it's always done it for me. But I'm gonna tell you, it just tells the story. I went to Kemet, and when I walked in the Cairo Museum, you got Amenhotep III. I mean, it's huge. It's like I don't even know how many feet this thing is. It's like the size of the tall of the building. The building had to be a certain height because the statue is just our people are just amazing. But when you go see it, but when you see Amenhotep III sitting there with Queen T, and literally she's sitting down in a chair, and her hips, I mean, like Brother Kava say, they flooding us like the Nile. I'm like, gee, even the brothers back then was like, I want to show you how we do it. I mean, she just thick as all get up. Oh my, and she got braids. These are thousands of years old. She got her braids in her hair, sitting in the Cairo Museum. It's the main attraction. And I'm looking at it, brothers and sisters, and I'm telling you, I was like, man, ain't nothing like a black woman. But let's stop, bro, because we ain't gonna never get nowhere else. My mind to get off. Let me
Yeah,
get back to the
yes, sir. Yeah, back to this hip hop, brother. My, my,
yeah,
my
yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So, as I was saying, matter of fact, this actually helps though, because that where I veered off into Christianity and all that it did not make us forget as a black man. Whew, when that black woman walked by, you smell that perfume, you ain't forget that. This is what has happened. I'm not saying that things didn't happen in slavery that were bad, but let us be honest with ourselves. It made us worship whites. That is bad. And so we got to get that out in order to stand up and fight and stand up. But what has hip hop done? Go ahead and brace. It didn't make us worship white folks. It made us satanic. I'm going to say it again. It's one thing to worship white folks, but the idea associated with them is love, is intelligence, is honor, all the positive things that come from our people, and it's the way we view God, but we give that credit to white folks. But you still are looking at good principles. Not that they treat us well, but just the principles. It's just you attributing it to him. You haven't stopped thinking that a man's supposed to have a wife and children. You haven't stopped thinking that a man's supposed to be responsible. You just look at the white man as the ultimate man and you bow to him. But you still know right from wrong. What Christianity has done, what hip hop has done, slit the wrist of little sis after she I stabbed a brother with an ice pick. He wanted me to F him from the back. Smalls don't get down like that. Found her father hiding in the room. I F'd him with a broom. I slid him down the back and threw salt in his wound. Who you think you're dealing with? Anybody stepping in my path is effing feeling it. Hardcore got you sucked like a PUSSY. Stab you to your gushy. Please don't push me. I'm wearing rubbers so they don't trace the semen. The black demon got the little hookers screaming because you know I love it young, fresh, and green with no hair in between. Know what I mean? What follows that up? See, I want people to see how, this is where they got us. Who follows that up? There's 7 different levels to devil worship and horse and sex. human sacrifice and cannibalism, animals having sex with them, camels, mammals, and rabbits, but I don't get into that. I kick the habit. I beat you to death with weapons that eat through the flesh. And I never eat you unless the meat looks fresh. We're talking about pure Satanism that now sounds like a fancy beat. And we're talking about a woman, but we're not talking about a woman. We're talking about pure sadistic madness. For anybody who doesn't know what I was just talking about, that was a song called Dead Wrong. It's like one of the most popular rap songs. If they played the music you hear right now, you go, oh, that's my song. Maybe you wasn't listening to the words. But if you listen to any rap songs now, I want you to hear me clearly when I say it. It's worse than Christianity. It's pure Satanism. The only topic is violating women, misogyny. That's the only topic. There's a lot of gay stuff going on in there. Lick him like a lollipop. You got a dude sing the song Lick Him Like a Lollipop, who be in pictures kissing dudes. It's gay. Murdering each other. You got songs talking about murdering each other, glorifying it. I remember when me and my posse stepped in the house, all the punk ends started breaking out. So they say, we know what's up. So we started looking for the bees with the big butt. Like her, but she keep crying. I got a boyfriend. B, stop lying. Dumb hooker ain't nothing but a dyke. Suddenly I see some ends that I don't like. Walked over to him and said, what's up? First end that I saw, hit him in the jaw. Ren started stomping him, so did E. By that time, got rushed by security. Out the door, we don't quit. Ren said, let's start some. I got a shotgun. Here's the plot. Taking ends out with a flurry of buckshots. Boom, boom, boom. Man, I was gunning. And you look, all you see is ends running and falling and yelling and pushing and screaming and cussing. I stepped back and I kept busting. Then I realized it's time for me to go. Then we jumped in the vehicle. It's like this because of that hoot ride and WA's wanted for homicide. So we're glorifying starting conflict with our own brothers and murdering them.
Now, brother, let people know, because that's way back in the day. Let people know who that was and who wrote that verse, that last verse you said.
It's foundational. That's Ice Cube. Gangsta Gangsta. The song, if I can pick one song that set off the absolute glorification of the extermination of black men by black men, and of black self-respect, and of black self-love, that made it right. It's not that somebody talked about being a gangster. It's the song that glorified and made it the right thing to do, and made you feel like you were a man by killing your own brother. It was Gangsta Gangsta, NWA, Ice Cube.
Now,
ain't nobody else was in the song but Ice Cube.
Brother, I have identified that, and we had this conversation. Mm-hmm. You know, I talked about the N-word identity and how we have, like, if you talk to black people, you have black people say they're Hebrews, Moors, Muslim, Christian. I'm from Chicago, whatever, you know, whatever it is. I'm Crenshaw Mafia, whatever the case may be. But unfortunately, especially amongst black men, the universal identity that 95% of black men accept is the N-word. And we had the discussion that, and it's funny because when I brought it up, it's like you were already there. That song is this is how you become an N-word song. To me. It gives you out like this is a day in the life of N-words. This is N-word activity. This is, you know, this is how you become. Even though the song is called Gangsta Gangsta, realistically, the song could have been called N-word, N-word. And it laid out the foundation. And for people who weren't around, they don't understand that when NWA came up, they came up while Rakim was out. And I don't know if you remember this video. The Move the Crowd video was pivotal in my development, because the Move the Crowd video, Rakim was a politician. Rakim was a general. and Rakim was a black leader. And I saw that video and I was like, okay, there really is no limit to the black man. And I saw that universal flag. I didn't even know what it was, but I was like, that's something powerful. Whatever this dude is into, what he's saying is so deep and profound to my mind, right? That I'm just like, this is something. Whatever this is, I want to be a part of that. Now, if I can be influenced like that and be doing race work 35 years later, then obviously the music affects people. If people can listen to Poor Righteous Teachers and King's Son and all these people that came up that were around that time, and then suddenly they started to disappear, and the Mobb Deeps, you start seeing the Mobb Deeps on the East Coast, who literally they changed what they were talking about. Biggie, the rise of Biggie, and that whole thing, and so forth and so on. Brother, how powerful is music? Like, in fact, when Kanye, when he was on Drink Champs, and he said, "I'm gonna do something anti-Semitic," and he demonstrated it. Now that I think about it, he played out a beat. He did call and response, he repetitively, and it shows literally. It's like it has a hypnotic effect. And you know, when I was young, now I'm really show my age. Back in the Walkman era, we walked around with this stuff plugged in our ears. This before your phone. This before they crammed all this technology into your phone. You know, you don't have to have a camera and a Walkman. No, all that's in your phone. We literally walked around with this stuff pumping through our ears. And literally I saw people who were just regular dudes. And you go to college, you come back, hey, where's so and so? Oh, so and so got locked up. Where's so and so? Oh, so and so got shot while you was at school. I'm talking about young brothers younger than me, regular cats out here trying to live this hip hop life and suffering the consequences. Man, just speak to that a little bit, brother.
I'm gonna tell y'all a story. It's crazy, man. It's like real. All right, I grew up in Southeast. I was not the tough guy. I'm being 100. I was around tough dudes, and it was the Southeast was just a space of masculinity and raw aggression. I was the least of which in that environment, but I made it through. I struggled through, but I made it through. But I never forget, even though it was tough, these dudes I grew up around in Marbury Plaza, I grew up in Southeast and Anacostia, they were just good dudes, man. They just generally, the vast majority of them, I'm going to say, maybe one or two might, wasn't right, but the vast majority of them was good dudes. They were men. Even at 14 or 15, they were straight men. I never forget this story, man. There's a place called Eastside when I was in college, and I had gone off to school out of town, so I wasn't around them for high school because I was in high school out of town. I would come back in the summers. So when I came back, and I had moved out the area, but I still knew them from growing up. So we went. I went to Eastside. It was a club. The Go-Go's and all that stuff. And I remember every weekend, a bunch of people was getting killed. I mean, it was just like every weekend, you just count how many people got killed that weekend. Now, I never forget coming out because you asked, why'd you go? I don't know. This is what we did. We wanted to go to East Side, right? So we went to East Side, even though people get killed every weekend. And I certainly wasn't shooting them. But I went there and I came out and I walked out with my cousin. We was leaving together. And I heard these dudes was going kind of hard, like real hard. And they were going real hard. So we was walking away. My cousin, I could tell he was real nervous. And I would have been nervous too. But then I seen them. I said, "Hey, what's up?" So I said their names. These are my boys, right? I grew up with. Man, they was so happy to see me. We was chopping it up. My cousin was like, "I'm out, Joe." I said, "All right." So he was happy to get away. Just get like, who the heck is these dudes? And I started watching. As I was standing there talking to him, one of them would go do something like it was over the top, and I was like, "Hold up." Now again, I never found out. Don't want to know. What I know is I can tell you this. I knew these brothers. They was good dudes. They were really good people. But that NWA came, they was going hard. Like, you can't just go out talking trash out east side like that. So I knew what that meant. I never said nothing. But when I left, I was like, dang, man. It wasn't just the music, but I've seen good brothers who was thorough turn into some dudes that would do things that they would have not done before. Like, they are problem dudes, and they not dudes you want to have problems with. The music affects you significantly because it transitions the meaning and definition of manhood. And when you have alpha males all around and you grow up in that environment, then you want to be the most masculine you can be. And when the most masculine you can be transitions in your mind from being a protector that stands up for your people and the women and children, and transitions to you kill and dominate and terrorize your community, then alpha males are going to start transitioning to terrorizing your community. And if you get deep enough in their minds, if the idea is me raping a dude is more masculine than a man who traditionally would kill any man, would straight up just kill you if you say anything gay to him. Is like we wasn't having it at all. If you get deep enough in his mind and put him in the wrong circumstances and convince him that it's more masculine to take a man's masculinity by raping him, putting him around people that's sick like that, you can transition a man into a homosexual that don't even know that has happened. I've seen it happen from the perspective of talking to brothers that went to prison, and then I'm saying dude was gay. He was like, nah, he was doing raping a dude. And I'm like, nah, he's gay. I'm really the person that I'm aware of that came out and put it out in the video format, the feminization of the black male, that it don't matter which side you're on, it's still homosexual. I actually remember a time when people didn't know that. I remember the time before NWA, we all knew that. And it wasn't just NWA, but the whole prison culture, the movies like American Me, all of this stuff they put on us, Oz, with all this stuff, they transitioned us, and the music was central in it because this is what NWA did. Yes, Luke and that music did something, but NWA, I would say, is the linchpin. I'm going to tell you why. And this is what I say. I'm going to go back to my original statement. What NWA did is they removed any standards of morality and replaced any idea of morality with Satanism, and then put the beat, which is the rhythm and spirit of African people, on Satanism. So now Satanism is something you can rock to, killing yourself, destroying yourself, raping a woman, raping babies, killing babies, selling dope, anything bad that's self-destructive, killing yourself. You can make it sound good. You take the rhythm of the African, you put it to the music and the spirit of the African rhythm with the creativity, and then you promote pure, unadulterated Satanism. But you don't know that it's Satanism because you get paid to do it so much that it becomes so normalized that you don't ever stop to write down the words and read them and say them and realize I'm not just in evil. I'm literally I'm promoting homosexuality and lesbianism if it's normal. Like, I'm not into the Bible, but let's say you look at it from two ways. You being an African, man, woman, child, which is the core of who we are, which makes it's even harder than the Bible in terms of it goes against the very definition of who we are as a race of people. Or if you're a Christian, again, we talk about which one is worse, Christian or hip hop. Hip hop now justifies homosexuality and lesbianism. Christianity, even though you got a bunch of homosexuals in it,
said that God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah for homosexuality. So it don't just say it's bad. It says it's so bad that God ain't even going to let Jesus come to fix them. Anybody, you can go murder people, God will send Jesus to help you. But if you're involved in that, God going to take care of that himself. He ain't even leave that to that. That's how bad it is in Christianity. So the ethic of hip hop is literally worse than being enslaved through Christianity and worshiping white folks. It's literally, not figuratively. Literally, if you go study Satanism and what they do in Satanism, they kill children. Well, who listens to hip hop? Young people. I mean, now older people too, but it was young people. It targets young people for what? Sex, violence, and death. Disrespect for adults and parents, and disrespect for life and women who produce life and the children. It's literally, we're in a satanic culture. I'm not talking about the white culture. I'm talking about hip hop culture is black rhythmic Satanism. I'm not going to pull back from her to be nice about it. Forget about the good stuff and the bad stuff. There was a time when it was not that. I'm not talking about Public Enemy. I'm not talking about X-Clan. I'm talking about NWA, Luke Skywalker, and the merger of that. Ghetto Boys, the worst of that. Not because there was some good stuff there from Ghetto Boys, but I'm talking about the worst of the stuff. When you bring it forward to what it has become now, if you make it simple, it's just Satanism. We become satanic, immoral, unethical, and we've glorified our own destruction. Let me say this one other piece. I want you to understand, I mean, this is really, we don't realize how severe this is. In Christianity, we knew that we weren't N-words. If we used the word, we knew that it wasn't right. This thing is so satanic that the Jewish word, remember it was, the small hat word, Carl Sandburg. You can go back and research it. Who was it that told the Garvey during the Garvey's time that the word that we should use, because it sounded like a coin on a pavement, was the N word? And the Garveyites, Mr. Garvey and the Garveyites said, "Who the heck is this white dude?" They didn't. I don't know how many of them knew he was a small hat, but they said, "Who is this fool to tell us to insult ourselves? No race would do that." And they fought that, and they said, "We'll never use that word to describe our people." Hip hop is literally taking the word that the small hats have told us that we need to use, and through Jerry Heller have financed the replacement of the African identity. The African Methodist Episcopal Church, the Revolutionary Church, even though it was Christianity, but they was fighters though. You can't say nothing about Richard Allen and them cats back then. They carried the heat. Yes, they were Christian, and we know we don't believe in the doctrine because we know we have a doctrine before that. But at the end of the day, these were good people. They were not immoral, and they fought for our freedom, and they went to the battlefield to fight for our freedom. Ain't nobody going to no battlefield to fight for our freedom in hip hop. They're fighting against our freedom, the freedom to even have self-respect, because they have said that our identity is not African, it's not black. Now we argue over a bunch of identities, but the only one that we can agree on because of hip hop is that we're N-words. That's the small hat construct. Whether you look at Jerry Heller or go back to Carl Sandburg, it doesn't matter what time period you go to. This is small hat control of the African mind, which is what? Pure, unadulterated Satanism.
Yeah, brother, you made a point that I was going to make, and it's very simple when you think about it. You know, under Christianity, Marcus Garvey, who considered himself a Christian, had no problem fighting and resisting evil, shall we say, to be euphemistic. Robert F. Williams, and there's a Deacons of Defense. There's a litany of brothers who either grew up in Christianity or considered themselves Christian who had no problem letting people of other ethnicities know that we just not going to be sit around and be brutalized, that we will defend ourselves. But to your point, no one who flies the banner of hip hop is going out here putting in any work, to my knowledge. Now, if y'all know somebody You know, put their name up in the chat. I don't know them. Yeah. Oh, yeah, brother Crow. Hold up. Yeah, yeah. Let me go back. Our holy prophet Nat Turner.
Ashe,
He read the Bible and said, "Oh, hey, this is a tool for liberation I got in my hand. They
bodies,
they've been telling me about this part. But they ain't talking about this part." And he went
bodies,
and put in that work under Christianity.
bodies.
Nobody listened to NWA, Mob Deep, and I'm gonna talk about group. I mean, these are groups that I listen to myself. Nobody listened to those people and said, "Hey, I'm going to put in some work
Wu
on
Tang, Wu
Wu
Tang,
Tang." Right. Whoever. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter.
the
Nobody
locks.
listened to that and said, "I'm going to put in some work for my race." It didn't happen. Oh, and brother, you got ripped off. He wants to bring up Bambooty. Can you get into that real quick? And I'm gonna ask you this now, because there's still a whole lot of stuff that we left, and we almost up on 2 hours. So just talk about Bambooty real quick, and then I want you to talk about brother Kyrie real quick after that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Bambada. Man, man, I'm gonna just keep it real. Some things that have hurt me in this movement, that really have hurt me. When I was 15, the young lady told me she had been sexually abused. That set my life on a course. Again, I didn't do it. I'm just telling you what I thought at the time. And I'm not saying I had the capacity to do it. I'm just keeping it real. When she told me she was raped and it was a family member, and I really loved this sister as a friend. She was just a friend. It was just a friendship. But I really said, I'm gonna kill this dude. Because I'm like, you don't do that, man. Who gonna rape a child, man? Then a family member. What kind of creep? I didn't know that it was a real problem in our community. She opened me up to that reality, and all these sisters now start. Every sister I met told me it was like weird. They just all start telling me. I don't know why I'm telling you. I never told anybody, but I didn't want to tell my father because he would have killed them. You know, I just got the story so many times. I was like, woo. So I set my life on the course. I said, I'm gonna deal with this problem. And the worse I found out that it was, the more I was like, this is a monumental issue. Nobody will talk about it, but I'm like, I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna do something about it. And for years, I was chasing that war. Like, you got to find out, how do you even fight something like that, because it's so hidden. But I wanted to fight it, and we finally had. For me, it was like the pinnacle on the mountain that I've been climbing. Even though I'm fighting for my racial survival, I'm like, the social issue, that's the core issue. If we can stop this, then we can fix everything else, because we don't have a bunch of broken people to try to fix. In a core way, right in the core of the being, man. Sexual abuse as a child. So when the Bambaataa thing came out, I said, this is it. And I didn't like them New York dudes. I'm gonna keep it, not 100% of them, but I'm just gonna be real. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm just saying, let me not say it that way. I want to be more. I had some issues with some of the New York guys. You know, I'm different, man. I really mean this, man. And it was everything to me. I was like, all this talking we've been doing, we really gonna get a chance to stop pedophiles from raping children. I mean, I really felt like I can't give you the glory of the feeling. And so I put all differences aside, and we talked to some brothers up there and said, we're gonna do something when this came out, and we're gonna bring everybody together. And if y'all know, I'm not working with no Hebrew Israelites. That was one time, honestly, they became my brothers. Because when we talked about we were going to do something with it, they was like, we with you 100%. Nobody should be messing with a child. And I looked at them, and I looked at them differently. Then I said, these are men. And I said, I respect these brothers. I don't care about the theology and all that. Ain't important to me right now. We talking about saving children. They like, we with you 100. We'll be there early. They was there before we got there. I was like, yo, so nobody can tell me nothing about ISUPK. No one can say nothing to me. I don't want to hear it. Nothing you can tell me about them, because when we were trying to stop people from raping children, they were there. That's all I need to know. They was there, and they was committed, and they was standing there. And when Bambaata's people or some of them, they came up, they stood right there in the gap. I was right there, like, what are we gonna do? We, the good thing is we talked to those brothers and it went a different direction. But it's like, this is what I'm here for. So if it go down, that's even better. For me, it was like, wherever it goes is good, because this is what I've been in this for. I'm ready to do something, not talk no more. Let's go. And I'm saying all that to say we had hundreds of people out in the street in New York. It was one of the best days of my life, because I'm like, we're going to save so many children. I saw children hearing us saying it, and they were crying. I saw women smiling. I saw strong brothers hearing it, saying, look, we're going to deal with one pedophile at a time, clean these streets. Brothers shaking their head like, yeah, this is it. I'm not going to lie to you. It was like I was in heaven. I was like, damn, I can't wait. We're going to make this stop. We're going to go into the Bronx. And when his people came, and I said, brother, do you agree with this? And the brother said, man, I got 8 or 9 children. Ain't no, I laughed because we laughed. We said, he don't even know which one. He know he got a bunch of children. He loved every single one of them. And he's like, I would never let nothing like that happen. And then it turned him away from being against us, because he's like, man, we came out here because we felt like somebody was saying all of us are like that. I said, nah, bro. But if you against it, we against it. And then one of them said, it's not true. And he looked at him and said, nah, it is true. I heard some people talk, nah, it's real. And so now all of a sudden I said, so who with y'all with? Y'all gonna be with that stuff or with us? He's like, well, I can't be with that because it's wrong. I'm like, we just recruited people from their camp because what we doing is righteous. I was like, I can't wait to get to the Bronx, because people gonna say, we glad you came because this got to stop. I mean, I can't, I know I'm talking long, but I'm sorry, you asked the question. This is what's on my spirit. That was the happiest moment in this movement that I can think of. That, and then of course April, when we did the Warriors, the Asafo conference. But that moment was special to me, man. And it was in New York. And all these dudes that a lot of them I didn't have like a lot of favor towards, I favored them that day. Dudes I would not even talk to, dudes I have real, like, didn't like at all. That day I liked them, man. And I looked at them differently. And I said, they out here doing this, and every man that was out there, I appreciated every man on the level of his manhood. And now I'm gonna go ahead and say it, man, because man, it hurt me so bad. We did that on a Saturday. 8 days later, at Mosque Mariam, when I'm not even gonna say his name, man, when he assaulted us verbally, man, I just can't tell you how it felt to me, because I'm like, yo, if there's any time in my life, I'll put aside all differences for Black people, so we can go out here and choke. So we can go out here and deal with these people that's raping children, man. I want this to stop. I'm like, why would you do this now, man? Why, man? It literally, my heart bled, man, because I was like, nah, man, this is too important. Like, there's no difference I have with any person out there that they say we're going to stop somebody from molesting a child. I put the 100% of the differences aside, and I say, I'm here to help you, brother. Just tell me what you need. I'll do whatever you need. You need me to sweep the floor, anything to do that. I would do anything. I would pick up trash with my bare hands and carry it to I don't care, just to be able to be part of something that helps stop this. And when he attacked us like that, from that platform like that, man, I'm not going to lie, man. The pain, because something said to me, am I going to be able to get to where I want to get with this happening right now? I was like, it bothered me, because I'm like, why would you do this now? But I looked past it and we kept going. And then you remember when we had the big event that we were supposed to be having with the ISUPK brothers.
Right.
And then they sabotaged that event, man. Not them, not ISUPK, but other people up there. I'll be honest with you. It's hard for me, especially to go to Harlem. And I'm mature enough not to do it, but I do hold a penchant of bitterness towards what happened in that situation. I'm like, man, we was trying to get at children and do a movement. Man, John, I gotta stop talking. Don't make me cry, man. It bothered me, man. It's like these people undermine the effort to stop people from raping children, man. I don't think I'll ever forget it. That's what I'll say. I can say to everybody that's listening, we didn't do it, so it doesn't really count for nothing. But I'll just tell you, for me, you know, it's interesting you brought this up, because the sister must have watched the video. She told me she watched it, and she started asking me what happened with that. That's why I think it's hitting me so hard right now. She asked me the other day, and I was like, I ain't even like answering it to her because I'm like, I felt like that was a moment in time we were about to engage on something that would be legendary in history. I don't know any race that's ever done that. I've never heard any pretext for people saying raping the children is wrong. This is an actual phenomenon, and we're going to go in and deal with it. And then got the men together to break through all of their differences and to go towards it. And all the brothers was on board, man. All of the brothers, Warner Pride, Straight Black Pride, everybody was on board, man. And then they sabotaged that effort, and I realized that it wasn't going to happen. I'm not going to lie, man. It took a lot out of me, man. I'm still going to fight for my race, but it just, I don't know. That's what happened with that. And so basically, I don't know what he's doing, but I doubt that he stopped doing it. He probably does it quieter now, but I think that we missed that opportunity to take that baton and run with it and really crack and put a solid, again, we talking about Satanism.
Right.
We're talking about Satanism. We talking about the core of hip hop, where it started, really. Credited from the beginning. And we see that Satanism was there, but it had grown in a different direction. And it had gone to a place that was very positive and uplifting, but this root was still there. And we had gotten a chance to get to that naked, evil root. And we didn't. And we can look at where it is now, man. This stuff that they listen to now is nothing but Satanism. And that's just the truth.
Right. I remember that time vividly. I remember being there in that circle. I remember when them brothers came up and challenged you. And it was so masterful how you disarmed them, because you just put them in a position of either, hey, man, you advocate pedophilia, or you with black people. And it really was nothing the brother could say, because like he said, he was quick. He's like, oh, no, I ain't with that. I got 8, 9 children. I remember the number. And then, like, you had disarmed him. And then he disarmed his man that was with him. And their whole vibe changed, because they had came up there ready for war. I don't know what they had heard. That obviously they had been sent. Like their people sent them, stop that thing now. Period. End of discussion. And they came up there and they were serious. It was, it could have went left real bad, but you disarmed them so masterfully that they could do nothing else but bear witness. And I remember the whole the joint event that y'all did at what was that, Alhambra Ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
And we looking and we waiting and we expected people to show up, and it just never happened. And I think later on that we really understood that we got bigger, that what we're facing is bigger than what we think. We thinking this local dude, the gang, or this or that or whatever. As far as I'm concerned, man, that dude is a part of an international. Y'all getting an echo?
I don't hear echo.
Okay.
Can I say something on what you're saying? Because I really want to put it into context. I want everybody just to sit in your seat and remember this, because it's going to really hit you. We did this in May 2016. Why is that relevant? Because we were starting an on the ground anti-pedophilia child molestation movement that we were planning to take around the country. Remember, I was lecturing around the country then. I was being brought into every different region. I was going with this. This was something that our people was going to get on board with. And of course, I had the lectures on pedophilia, homophilia, where it came from, how it started and all that. But here's the deep thing. It was thwarted by sabotage from multiple different directions. But remember, at the end of 2016, what came out? Pizzagate. All of that stuff happened in November, right before the election. So imagine what would have happened if black people had an anti-pedophilia on the ground movement going into that election, and then they dropped Pizzagate while we were in the streets saying we choking any pedophile that we find. Can you imagine the nuclear explosion? See, we were talking Pizzagate the same year that it came out, before it even came out. We didn't call it Pizzagate because we didn't have that proof. We had this proof in the black community. So we were ahead of the white folks. We were ahead of them. And we was going to the ground with it. The way we was going to go with it, to the straight ground with it, toe to toe, like bodies, would have been the direction that they would have had once the Pizzagate came out. They wouldn't have thought about just sending information. Whatever we was doing, however we was doing it, would have been the precedent. They would have done it that way. So if we was making problems for people that's raping children, they would have been making problems for people, because that's how you do it. Like we had the chance to show people how to do it. We was doing it. Like if you get a chance, go online and look at, I don't know where you'll find it. I think it's still on YouTube, but it's somewhere. It was the Bambada rally against Bambada, Irritated Genie. Put it in there and find it. Watch it. You'll see. I'm not making none of this up. You can see it for yourself. We were leading the way into Pizzagate, but it would have been different. It would have been on the ground. So we would have set the pace for how this thing would have been dealt with. And it was black people. I got to be honest, man. I don't know who paid them. If it was some white folks behind it, I'm going to just be real. I can't blame white folks. I didn't see the white folks. I'm not saying it wasn't white folks, but the black people were the ones that did it. And if there was whites behind it, which is very possible, I don't know. I mean, all I can tell you is what I know. I know black people sabotaged it and blew the effort up and stopped that momentum intentionally with malice of forethought. I watched it happen. And I was very bitter, but fighting this battle that we fight now was more important than things that were on my mind. So we stayed the course, and we still here, and we fighting the big battle now. But you asked me that, I'm just telling you, I just that comes from my heart. That bothers me.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I already know. Like I said, I was right beside you when all these things happened, and you called me when that presentation for Moss Mariam, and I was basically speechless. And you know me, if I'm gonna be speechless, I'm not gonna be on the phone or nothing. I'm gonna just be by myself. So yeah, that was Anyway, let's move forward because
Yeah,
I have you just start thinking about how things could have been, and you just get frustrated.
yeah,
Real quick,
yeah.
um, just talk a little bit of well, no, well, first of all, let me ask you a question. If the show does not get canceled tonight, will you come back next week for us to get into deeper into well, we haven't even touched on the Wakanda Forever. Will you come back next week so we can talk about that and get deeper into brother Kyrie, because we haven't even touched on Wakanda Forever at all.
Okay. And I didn't even talk about the campaign either. You know what?
Well,
Let me see, because I'm looking at the actual comment section. Let me see the comment section. Would people want me to come back on next week? Because I don't really do a lot of interviews these days, and I'll do anything that you want. But I want to hear from the people if that's something that they would want, and if they say they want that, then I do it. So let me see what the people say.
okay,
Let me
well,
see.
we'll let the y'all put up. Y'all can either put up the black fist or you can just say yes or whatever if you want the brother to come back. And I'll
Okay,
just say this, brother.
okay,
We had at peak over 90 people
mm,
concurrently in here watching.
mm,
That is a max for this show. And mind you, I haven't done anything in well over a month. Because
mm.
like I said, had to let all the, I mean, I had all types of strikes and all types of things. And they even took down the fight against the jab mandate rally video that was up, which I was just covering as a journalist. You know, you was like, "Hey, we doing this." I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll come out and film it." You know,
Mm-hmm.
and they left it up for. I mean, they left it up for a good little while, and then one day it's just like, "Yeah, nah, you can't have this anymore." And
Out of here.
I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay, I'm glad I got it somewhere else. Thank you, though." So I see a lot of yeses and black power fists, and
All right.
I haven't seen anybody say, "Nah, man, y'all dudes are rapping too long, man. I went and got a sandwich. I ain't even want to," you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'll do it. I'll do it. Sure.
yeah, okay, yeah. So next week, I definitely want you to get into the Kyrie campaign. Just give people a little bit. Just give them a preview of what you got in mind.
Got in mind just a little preview. If you imagine a hashtag apologize to Kyrie, basically, he said no to that jab. He was right. We have all the information we need now. But also, they keep getting us to bend down and bend over. And they keep trying to force our people to back away. And I think it's time for us as black men now to stand up and say, you know what? We're not going to back down. You're going to bend over. Even though we're not like you, we're not going to do that stuff y'all do when people bend over. But y'all understand? Let me change. You're going to bow down. You're going to bow down. Yeah, let me change it. Yeah, it's no homo, no homo. Let me say that.
Right.
You're going to
Yeah. Pause on that.
pause on that one because hold it. But yeah, I think it's time for us to start being aggressive. No, you're going to apologize, and it's not negotiable. We're not asking you, and then to make them do it, and it starts with not asking him to join it, but saying apologize to Kyrie. Because see, that goes beyond just what he did in basketball, but it starts going into that jab too. So it's a lot of things I have on my mind thinking with that. And I think it's right now a lot of brothers are feeling that way and sisters. And it's an easy way for us to take a position that we would agree with. So I want to know what people think. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow on our radio program. Every Monday morning at 10 a.m., we do a radio program, WSYP. Brother, it's in the chat there. As you can see, it's at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's only 1 hour, but we do it. And you can listen to that. And we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about it tomorrow, every Monday evening. We do at 6 o'clock. Wish y'all could be here. We have our discussions at the facility, and we discuss these things. And we start talking about, what move we're going to make. And I think that'll be a great discussion about whether or not this is something we want to do. And if it's something that people are really on board with, we're going to get the shirts. We're going to really do something to keep this black Jew war, black small hat war going. Because we finally start throwing punches, and even if they can't maintain those punches, we need to start maintaining those punches. It's enough people that want to fight that we should fight.
And brother Saint African asked, are there radio show playbacks? Is there a way that he can get access to previous shows?
If you send an email to liberation@waronthehorizon.com. Again, that's liberation@waronthehorizon.com. Ask us to add you to our email list and ask for some of the programs. We can send you out an email with all of the programs. Now, for the last couple of months, we haven't been getting the program, so I got to call and see what the situation is with that. But I think, anyway, at any rate, we'll figure out what we have to do to get access to the programs. But yes, you can get the programs that we already have at least. Yes. And they replay it at 3 o'clock too. So 10 o'clock and 3 p.m. is when they play them. They do a replay every day every Monday at 3 p.m.
All right, brother. Well, you have anything, any last statements you want to make, and then I'll close it out after you make your statement.
I want everybody to go see the Black Panther. Now, listen, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to do a spoiler alert. I'm going to tell you why, though. I really want to come back and tell you why I wanted you to watch it. But I want you to hear me when I say this. I'm not going to do a spoiler. I'll say this. As much as I'll say to you is that
when we talk about it, yes, there are going to be things you absolutely don't like, and you're not supposed to like them. But what I can see from my purview in watching it, there was a war that went on. It would be so much worse if our brother Kugler didn't do it. I have no evidence, just my perception. This is my wisdom that I had over the years, if it's wisdom. What he did to not make it what they wanted it to be is worth watching, because there's an angle that we can look at this from, if you watch this, that'll be entirely beneficial. You just have to know how to curb your mind. So go watch it, please, because I'll talk to you and break it down to you. Then curb your mind of how we can play watching this, and it can be used for 100% good. Even though it wasn't 100% good, I'll explain it all then. But I can't explain none of it to you unless you see it. And don't worry about the fact that there are parts you're not going to like, because you're not going to like them. Just remember to go all the way through to the end, and then I'll explain to you why I told you to watch it and what we can do with it and how to identify. We got to know when we got fighters on our team too. I'm going to say it. I don't know him, never met him, can't prove it. My instinct, we got a man that's on our side, and this Kugler guy. There are things I saw in here that tell me he's a brother. He loves our people, and I respect him for what I saw he was able to do in very dire circumstances.
Yes, sir. And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't going to see it, but I said that I would do a review. But we have you here, so we can just discuss it next week. But brother, you got ripped off, sent a due nation, because I said I'm not gonna pay for it. I wasn't gonna pay for the Woman King either, but the brother sent a due nation, so now I at least have to go see one of them. So I'm gonna do that. My plan is to
Thank
do
you,
that.
brother. You got ripped off. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
I plan to see that tomorrow. So one thing I just want to thank everybody for coming out and tuning in, and again to have this larger audience, considering that I haven't been on in a long time, and I had no idea whether YouTube would pull the plug. I've seen people on YouTube recently where they start talking about certain stuff and they cut their stuff off in midstream. So if we're still here next week, we'll still be here next week. If not, maybe I'll record something and send it out. We'll make it happen. But make sure that you liked the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you share it. And maybe if they see a jump in people who subscribe, maybe they'll say, you know what? We make money off of this, and these fools can talk about what they gonna talk about, because they ain't gonna do nothing. Maybe we can convince those people to do that. Or maybe not. Anyway, you can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dc_radical_one, on OTWTube at dcradical1. You want to donate to the Cash App, $dcradical1. Of course, this is the YouTube page. And the email is dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com. And Brother Genie, let them know how they can contact you. And also, don't forget, you also are on OTW2.com, which is a black-owned social media platform. Let them know, other than that, because you're there under Irritated Genie, right?
I'm pretty sure I should be.
But let them know how else they can contact you.
Okay, so a few things. You can always, if you want to stay in touch with us so you'll always know what we're doing, you can always reach us. Reach me, liberation@waronthehorizon.com. Say, hey, look, add me to your email list and send the videos out to you. And we'll add you to the email list so you'll know what we're doing. Also, I started it new, and if it lasts, this is going to be pretty good. I haven't really got going with it because I don't have people, I have never used this before. But if you put this in on, well, that, is JATR. It's at JATR on Twitter, I think. Or it might just have this name. Look for this on Twitter, because we put it on Twitter. If they don't take it down,
I'm gonna start putting it there and just putting out stuff. But in order to do it, I really do have to get some energy. And I don't know how to use Twitter like that. So I would just need y'all to go join it. And then, matter of fact, if somebody could do that right before we get off, because I know y'all are better at this stuff than me. Can you go to Twitter and see if you can find that real quick? This, and you'll be able to know as soon as you get there because it'll say that. And then give them the, what is it, a handle or something like that. I think it's JATR at JATR, I think. Or it might just have that absolute thing. If you can see that and put it in there for people so that they know how to get it. And then if all of y'all that can do, it might be this name, then see if you can just put in this actual name all together. I think that might be it. You should be able to find it. And then once you find it, in fact, let me do it real quick, bro. I'm sorry. I wish I'd have had this better, but I don't want to waste this opportunity. We never know if we're going to get another one, right?
There's no question about that, brother.
Okay, is JAT problem. Again, at JAT problem.
So, and that's on Twitter.
Yes, that's on Twitter. So if you can go to Twitter and do at JAT problem, if y'all can put it in there, yeah. And if a person just clicks that, will it take them right there? Or see, I don't know how this thing works. Because somebody put a link so that they can hit it and it take them right to the place on Twitter. Like put it so that like whatever the actual URL is, and it'll take them right there. And then what y'all do for me, if y'all go in there and put comments in there, and then post stuff in there, and then like it or whatever you call it. Once I see people are following it, I'll start getting more active and doing it because I'd like to do that because it seems like Twitter is easy to use, and I got some great stuff. So
Well,
yeah.
here's the thing about Twitter, brother. Real quick, not only can you do the tweets thing, but they have the man, what they call it, not the clubhouse thing, but it's like that clubhouse where you can have discussions with people. People can hear you speak, and you can interact with people like that. So that's also a recent, a relatively recent feature of Twitter. I haven't been on Twitter in a minute. You know, long ago I got put off Twitter for talking about the Sandra Bland situation and some other things. But space, yeah, thank you, brother. St. African Spaces. You know, I've been run off many places in the social media realm. You know, apparently I'm trying to catch up with you unintentionally.
Catch up, brother. Catch up. Catch up and mustard. Catch up and mustard.
But well, brother, I just want to thank you, man, for coming through and just the people needed to see your face, needed to hear your voice, needed some insight into what's going on. It's so much stuff going on. We didn't even get into this whole Russia situation. Maybe we'll touch on that next week. And like again, I'm gonna be honest, man. I just want to thank you for the work that you do, because you know what I'm saying. We're in contact a lot, and I know how certain things weigh on you. I know the sacrifices you've made, and really, it's the type of stuff that this is what usually happens. Brothers go out and they do work, and they work for their race. And maybe you like John Henry Clark, you work for your race till you can't see no more, or you're destitute, or whatever the case may be. And then after that person passes on to the great beyond, everybody talks about how fantastic they were, right? We've seen this for years. But how many times do we give people their flowers while they doing the work? And talk about and tell them that we appreciate them, because just as we see with this whole Ye and Kyrie situation, you step up to bat against the Hats. They with the smoke. Now maybe not physically, but your economics, your finance, your character, your children, you name it, they coming back at you full force. And I mean, you've been standing 10 toes down against all enemies since I met you. Through all situations, and I can't do nothing but respect it. You really the closest thing to Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad walking around right here on planet Earth right now. And I say that with all sincerity, brother. So we thank you for your work, brother.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. Honored to be working with you. Brilliant, brother. And I do the best I can do, and I'm gonna keep doing it. I love all of you all. I appreciate being here, and it feels good to be back in this space. And even if it's not here, I think we're gonna find a way that I can have more contact with people regular. And if and it has become a little bit more expensive, but right now there's not a big circuit. But I would ask people, my prices have gone up, but I'd like to come to People's City because it's time now for people to come out and start talking about it, because this is the topic. I just went to Houston, broke down to them what was coming and how it was going to come and what we need to do. And I'm sure they're sitting around saying, wow, this is what he just talked about. It's about to happen. So I'd like to come to different cities and do what I've been doing and share this information with people. If you can get, a nice audience out there to hear it, because I think it's time for this information to hit people. And I'm still on the battlefield, and the war is here. It's not coming. It's not on the horizon anymore. We're in the war for African survival internationally, and it's waging. And let's be part of it.
Yes, sir. And one more thing, because you just reminded me. Just want to let everybody know that coming up December 24th, and hopefully we'll have the flyer by next week, we're going to be celebrating our annual Dr. Chancellor Williams Day. And it's going to be two different events. We're going to have the gravesite ceremony on Christmas Eve in Suitland, Maryland. And like I said, we'll have the flyer out for, if the channel's still up. And then we'll do the Africa versus Everybody lecture on the 31st, which is closer to Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben birthday. So we'll be celebrating, in essence, Dr. Chancellor Williams, Dr. Ben, and Dr. Clark all at the same time. And that lecture will be live streamed. So we'll have that information for you all when the brother comes back next week. I'll keep checking my channel to make sure it's up every day. And if not, we'll have to send you an email about how we're going to do that. So I just wanted to let people know that now. We have those plans finalized, and then I'll get into what plans we have further after that. So with that, brothers and sisters, I definitely thank you all for coming through, listening, subscribing, sharing, donating. I heard the brother's phone going off. My phone went off a couple of times. So I see those donations are happening. Some of y'all said you bought the book while you were here. So the brother greatly appreciates that. And with that, I say a BB for Hodier and straight black pride.
Straight black pride.